Okay, before I forget. Yeah. Okay, so thank you and welcome once again, all of you. Last week we did chapter 13. Are there any questions on the 5 limbs of devotional service that we discussed? No? Okay, all right. So we'll get started with chapter 14. The title is Devotional Qualifications. Everybody has it?
Yes, Billy.
Okay. So you may recall that last week in chapter 13, Rupa Goswami was starting to analyze the relationship between the various spiritual practices, the 5 limbs that we talked about, and pure devotional service, in that if done properly, any and all of those limbs can lead to pure devotional service, or bhava bhakti, actually. There was a specific term used, bhava bhakti. Also in chapter 13, Srila Rupa Goswami had analyzed Varnashram Dharma. And his conclusion was that Varnashram is not really an item of bhakti. So it's not one of the 64 limbs. It's not an item of bhakti at all. However, it's not totally useless in that a devotee who's not yet fully attracted to pure devotional service, glorification of the Lord from a pure heart, he or she may utilize Varnashram Dharma to regulate his or her life and to purify the material desires that distract him or her from performing devotional service. And this is basically called a concession for those who are not at the pure level yet. And there are other examples. So one example that comes to mind is that the availability of facility of marriage is provided for someone who would otherwise be inclined to lead a sinful life, break the regulatory principles. And by getting married, at least they can satisfy their material desires and hopefully stay on a progressive path. So that's the reason why the Grihastha Ashram or the marriage facility is provided in the Varnashram Dharma. So the idea is that the Varnashram is the purpose, the real reason is to allow a person to stay on the path where one can avoid sinful life. Activities in this Varnashram system are aimed at purification of one's material desires and hopefully, given proper association, given proper faith, can lead to the start of devotional service. Because if there is nothing aimed at the eventual purification, the eventual obtaining the pure devotional platform, then it's basically useless and not recommended. And this is why we'll talk a little bit later on when Ramananda Roy was discussing with Lord Chaitanya, and he started by talking about Varnashram system. Lord Chaitanya said, no, that's external. Let's not talk about that. Let's move on. Because it is external. It's nothing to do with devotional service. It's basically bringing you to to a human level, up from an animal level where all you want to do is eat, sleep, defend, and mate. Okay, and actually to support that point, there is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 13, which basically says, Atapam ved vijishreshtha guna karma vibhagasha sunisitasya sadharmasya sansiddhim haritoshnam. Basically, what it is saying is that the ultimate goal of Varnashram system is to please Lord Krishna. So if you're not using the Varnashram system to do that, this is useless. And unfortunately, that's what ends up happening. Most people don't use the Varnashram system to get to the platform of pure devotional service. They basically stay with the religiosity, economic development, self-gratification, and ultimately salvation or liberation of the kind where you merge in the benevolence. Okay, so that's basically the reminder of what we had done. Any questions? Okay. So now chapter 14 continues this same analysis, and it's going to start with the Gyan and Vairagya, which is the knowledge and renunciation. So somebody like to read the first paragraph?
Did I start, Prabhuji?
Please do.
Some scholars recommend that knowledge and renunciation are important factors for elevating oneself to devotional service. But actually, that is not a fact. Actually, the cultivation of knowledge or renunciation, which are favorable for achieving a footing in Krishna consciousness, may be accepted in the beginning, but ultimately they may also come to be rejected. For devotional service is independent on nothing other than the sentiment or desire for such service. It requires nothing more than sincerity.
Thank you. So some excellent points are being made. First point is that the devotional service does not depend upon any other process, any other thing. All we require is the right sentiment or right desire to perform this service for the pleasure of the Lord. And as long as you're sincere, it's all accepted. So that's the first point. The second point is that the Gyan, which is the cultivation of knowledge, and Vairagya, which is renunciation or detachment, I should say. It may initially help a new devotee to focus on Krishna, because the knowledge and the renunciation or detachment can free someone from the distraction of the sense objects. But what happens is that when we practice Gyan and Vairagya, our mind is not directly fixed on Krishna. It's either absorbed in philosophical discussion or discrimination between matter and spirit, or fixed on basically seizing any karmic activities or material activities, so they can merge in the Brahman effulgence. However, we know that fixing the mind on Krishna is the most essential part of devotional service. And because knowledge and renunciation or detachment fail to do so, they're not considered items of devotional service or sadhana bhakti. Okay, is that clear? Is that point clear?
Only one question I have.
Boliye.
Prior to that, don't one need the association of the devotees or regular attendance of the temple where he can get, he or she can get the association of the temple from where one can have the knowledge and then the renunciation?
Well, so I'm with you until the point of association, but how do you make the jump to renunciation from there?
No, but that's what I say. Prior to that, we need the association of the devotees and a continuation of the attendance of the temple, which is again comes back to the association of the devotees and attending some classes, attending some courses, or again, the basic point is the association of the devotees one
Correct.
way or the other.
That's correct. Yes. Yes, that's correct. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, then let's read the next paragraph.
I can read it, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
It is the opinion of expert devotees that mental speculation and the artificial austerities of yoga practice may be favorable for becoming liberated from material contamination, but they will also make one's heart harder and harder. They will not help at all in the progress of devotional service. These processes are therefore not favorable for entering into the transcendental loving service of the Lord.
Yeah.
Actually,
So let's just wait for a second.
okay.
So very, very important point being made here is that the mental speculation and the austerities performed in various Ashtanga yogas, they may be good for you in terms of getting rid of material contamination, but what they do is they make your heart harder in that you're making all this, performing all these austerities, you're denying any sense gratification, you're renouncing everything, you're not attached to anything. That makes the heart very hard. And the problem is a hard heart cannot progress in devotional service. A devotional service needs a soft heart. That's why so many verses in Bhagavatam and other scriptures talk about when we are chanting, the tears don't come out, that means our heart is made of stone or steel, and it's not good. That means we're not making any progress. And all those kind of statements are made because it says only a soft heart can love Krishna or love anybody, and certainly love Krishna. So in that sense, it makes it a lot harder. A hard heart makes it harder to perform devotional service because the love is not there, the feeling is not there, the sincerity is not there, the emotions are not there. It's just very hard heart.
So in the other words, we can say, Prabhuji, we should become or get humbleness. In the other words, we can say.
Well, you can say that.
And opposed to hardness.
No, you can say that, but it's not the same thing. The opposite of hard heart is not humility. It's a soft heart.
So how would you define it again? Could you please define it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So hard heart means no emotions, no attachments, no consideration for other people, no feelings for other people, certainly not Krishna, no desire to make sacrifices for somebody else, and no sincerity of service, all those things.
Oh, okay.
You don't get if you have a hard heart.
Okay, thank you.
Right, sure. Anybody else? Okay, so basically what happens is that a materially attached person has emotions, but emotions that impel him towards sense gratification. And that's why materially attached people are into sense gratification so much. But as we were saying, renunciation makes the heart callous and indifferent to these emotions so that one will not be moved by these things. I mean, that's the whole definition of renunciation. So as I was saying, that in devotional service, the whole idea, actually devotional service means that you want to please Krishna by your love for him. So they become diagonally opposite to each other. The loving feeling and stone-like heart they don't go together. In a stone-like heart, there's no emotions, there's no love. It has to be soft. To express love requires a soft heart, just easily moved by the Lord's name, fame, form, qualities, pastimes, etc., etc. So therefore, the knowledge and renunciation or detachment are not favorable to devotional service. So is that point clear, or you still have some questions? Anybody?
Yes,
Prabhuji,
okay for me, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Can I
Prabhuji,
add something, Prabhuji?
please do. Yeah.
Prabhuji, how I understand this is, tell me if I'm wrong or right, please. Devotional service is one thing and Gyan and Vairagya are two different paths. So if a human have just Gyan, which is knowledge, agar khali Gyan hoga, then we will use it for mental speculations. Or agar khali Vairagya hoga, which is like, आपके पास detachment है, then you become heartless. But अगर आपके पास devotional service होगी, then you can get ज्ञान and vairagya. But because आपके पास एक higher taste है, then you use those two tendencies. जैसे एक बच्चा है, उसको एक बार बोल दिया, उसको समझा दिया. समझ में, sometimes we understand, we don't understand. दूसरा है कि उसको बोल दिया, आप चुप रहो, आपको कुछ करना ही नहीं, आप तंग कर रहे हो, आप चुप रहो. But third तरीका है, उसकी जो engagement है through devotional service, क्योंकि अगर आप खा रहे हो तो आप higher taste खा रहे हो, अगर आप पढ़ रहे हो तो higher taste book, higher knowledge ले रहे हो. So you just engage those services in the higher taste. You set up the higher bar. तो दोनों चीजें channelize हो गई, ज्ञान भी और वैराग्य, but through devotional service. But
Right.
अगर खाली एक approach लगाई तो they can go wrong.
Right. So actually, we'll talk about this point. It's a very good point you have made, and you're right. And that is, depends upon what the starting point is. If you're starting with bhakti, then also that generates knowledge and renunciation, but it's a different kind of knowledge and renunciation, which is a good kind, as opposed to when you start with knowledge or renunciation, then moving to devotional service is very difficult. And that's what you talk about, the mental speculation and all those kind of things, because you're trying to figure it out on your own. That kind of gyan is the bad part. You're trying to do this on your own. When the gyan comes to the scriptures, it's perfectly all right. Okay.
Prabhuji, I think there's a sloka, right? Vasudeva Bhagavati,
yeah,
Bhakti
we'll talk
Yoga
about
Prayochita, Jenyato Asho Vairagyam, Jnanam, Acha,
I have to
Ahituki.
come. I have to come.
Yeah, Ahitukam, yeah.
Yeah, that's 1 to 7. Yeah, I was going to come to that later on.
Okay.
Yes, no, but that's right. That's exactly right. Okay, all right.
So one more, Prabhuji. So, Vairagya you can understand, detach. So it becomes, everything you renounce, family renounce, children, any food renounce, everything you renounce, so that hardens. But Gyani, because since he doesn't have a personal connection, understanding, so the loving propensity is not there. That's how
Correct.
we check, right?
Correct.
So,
That's correct.
because he goes into speculation comes later on. Otherwise, also the Gyani starts, he doesn't have a higher taste or as a person. He has a taste, but not in a person. So that again, that also doesn't bring the emotions into that.
Correct.
There's no personal. Yeah,
That is
Okay.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
For emotions to be there, it has to be personal. Okay, let's read the next paragraph.
Still we are halfway there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Actually, Krishna consciousness, devotional service itself is the way of advancing in devotional life. Devotional service is absolute. It is both the cause and the effect. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause and effect of all that be. And to approach him, the absolute, the process of devotional service, which is also the absolute, has to be adopted.
Right. So first, let's discuss the second line, which says devotional service is absolute. It is both the cause and the effect. Would somebody like to tell me what this means? Devotional service is absolute and it's both the cause and the effect.
So the devotional service, Prabhuji, is the way to the ultimate goal, and devotional service is the ultimate goal. That is what I will consider. So it is like the beginning and also the end. Is that right, Prabhuji? or
Yeah,
not?
you're right. So basically, by performing devotional service, you get the goal of performing devotional service.
Yeah,
And the difference is the purity.
yeah.
So it's like chanting. Chanting is the process as well as the goal. Okay, so that's a very important point to understand. And same thing, because the Lord is non-different from devotional service, you can say the same thing about the Lord. He is the cause and effect of all that being. And to approach the Lord, we have, because he's absolute, we have to adopt a process that is also absolute. And that is devotional service. So again, that's another important point. Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is absolute. And it can only be achieved by a process that's absolute. And that process is called devotional service, which is on a spiritual platform. And therefore, when we talk about, oh, my karma allows me, I'll perform devotional service, it's totally bogus statement. Karma is a material platform. You cannot cross between the two platforms. And material platform cannot influence what is on a spiritual platform. So a lot of people say, oh, when my karma allows me, I'll do that, or I had good karma, therefore I'm doing devotional service. No, none of that is true. It has nothing to do with devotional service. Devotional service comes from the appropriate use of free will and the mercy of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. Okay, and again, I want to make sure that point is clear. Yes, no?
Clear,
Prabhuji, can I ask you something, please?
Please do. Yeah.
Prabhuji, when somebody shared these sentiments with you, okay, अभी क्या हमारे कर्मों में होगा भक्ति करना तो हम भक्ति करेंगे. When somebody share this with you and you know the answer, how do you tell them that whatever they're talking is bogus?
I don't use the word bogus, but I
mean,
let them
yes.
understand that the way the process works, karma is something material. It can give you good results and bad results, but it cannot give you devotional results. That's a totally different platform. And example I give them is that if you speak Hindi only, it's very difficult to communicate with somebody who speaks Chinese only. So you cannot make that jump. And therefore, material platform and spiritual platform are like parallel lines. They never cross. And you have to make a decision to jump from material platform to spiritual platform by using your free will to do that and to beg and hope for mercy from the Lord and the Lord's devotees. So if you're doing devotional service, that means somehow you manage to get the mercy of the Lord or Lord's devotees. And you should be very happy about that. And I basically stop there, just something very simple that they can understand.
That's perfect.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Related question, actually,
Yeah,
Prabhuji.
go ahead. Yeah.
So free will is one part, but to get that free will, I think
No, sorry, Prabhu.
knowledge is also
Sorry, Prabhu.
equally important.
No, Prabhu, let me
Okay.
stop you. You don't get free will. You have free will. It's intrinsic nature of yours.
Okay.
So you have free will. How you use it is up to you.
Correct. So to use that free will, I think knowledge is also important. Correct? Like it is like, can I say that knowledge is prerequisite?
Okay, so again, depends upon what knowledge you're talking about.
Okay.
You don't need to know the 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita and 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam. To get there, all you need to know is Krishna is God. And I am his servant. That's it. That's all you need to know. That's the only knowledge you need.
Okay.
There's no other knowledge required. There's no speculation. There's nothing. That's all you need to know.
Okay. So that is like the basic step of devotional service, the first step of devotional service.
Well, that's how you start. You cannot jump to the 9th step. You have to start at the first step. Otherwise, you slip and fall.
Okay.
So for example, Prabhu, in the temple, sometimes people come and they become very enthusiastic and they start doing all sorts of service and they start reading all the time and chanting all the time and book distribution and temple cleaning and all these things. And 6 months later, they're gone because they didn't go through the first step, second step, third step. They tried to jump to the 9th. It just doesn't work.
Okay.
Like you cannot register in a PhD program unless you go through grade 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Makes sense, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay. Who would like to do the next paragraph?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Please do, yeah.
This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. One can understand me only through devotional service. In beginning his teachings of the Gita, in beginning his teaching of the Gita, the Lord said to Arjuna, "Because you are my devotee, I shall teach these secrets to you." Vedic knowledge means ultimately to understand the Supreme Lord, and the process of entering into his kingdom is devotional service. This is accepted by all authentic scriptures. Mental speculators neglect the process of devotional service, and by simply trying to defeat others in philosophical research, they fail to develop the ecstasy of devotion.
Correct. So I think all of us who have read Bhagavad Gita know this verse 1855, which is Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati Yam Yashtastatata. So here, that's what we refer to. One can understand me only through the process of devotional service. Now, why is it that that's the only way? Anybody wants to answer that? Why is devotional service the only way we can understand Krishna?
Can I try, Prabhuji?
Of course, please do, yeah.
So someone who is trying to understand Krishna through mental speculation, first of all, there are 4 basic defects. So whatever you think or try to achieve will also be having those 4 defects. So you can't know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, if you go to devotional service, the basic fact that you are doing devotional service is to please Krishna. And because Krishna is supreme and ultimate, nobody knows him perfectly other than himself. So the only way to know someone is to please the person. And because he's supreme, he has the ability, basically he is the one who can give you the knowledge about himself. So that's why just by pleasing the person, you are only able to achieve. Otherwise, by your own effort, you can't do anything.
Correct. Very good. Thank you. So basically, you're saying Krishna reveals himself to a devotee. And I can just add that he reveals himself to the extent to which the devotee is performing pure devotional service. So degree of purity determines the degree of revelation by Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so that's the first line. Krishna is saying, you can only understand me through devotional service. And he said, because you are my devotee, he's saying to Arjuna, Krishna, because you're my devotee, I'll teach these secrets. Secret, what secrets? Secrets about, go ahead.
Raj Vidya, Prabhuji.
No, but answer the question in terms of some details. What secret? What is the secret?
The secret is like he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we are his eternal servants.
Right, right. And as eternal servants, our job is to serve him. Yeah, so these are the secrets saying, I will tell you. But I'll tell you only because you're my devotee. Now, why is that? Why is he saying, I'll tell you all this only because you're my devotee?
Because if he is not a devotee, he does not deserve to understand, because only a devotee deserves have some kind of basic qualification to whom the Supreme Personality can reveal his himself.
Okay, that's partly correct. Yeah, anything else?
Because devotee
Devotee
has
is not-
faith in Krishna.
Sorry, bro?
Devotee has the faith in Krishna.
Has faith in Krishna. Okay, that's a very important point, because so he will believe what Krishna says. When Krishna says, I'm this, I'm that, he says, I believe you. Like you may recall in chapter 10, Arjun says, 10:14, I think it is. Sarvam eta nitam banne yanmam modasi Keshava. He said, Lord Keshav, sorry, Keshav, whatever you said to me, I believe it. Whatever you have said, I believe. There's no argument, there's no questioning, challenging, nothing. This is what Gita is samvad, which is, there's no challenge going on. There's just question also going on to better understand the points being made. So Krishna is saying, this is what I'm looking for. This is why I'm getting that in you. And then he says, and you are my friend also. So what's the difference? What is the need to add that qualification? And you are my friend, you're my devotee, and you are my friend.
Because he
because-
surrendered to him, Prabhuji.
Okay, that's one point. Anything else?
Because between friends we have trust.
Between friends we have trust, and also that you. Sonam, go ahead, please.
I was saying the confidential things can only be shared amongst the
Correct.
friends.
I can tell you my heart, and you will believe it. Not in the sense of keeping it confidential, because the idea is to tell other people. But yes, I can share the secrets with you. So Krishna is saying, because you're my devotee, I should teach this secret to you. Now, the next line says, Vedic knowledge means ultimately to understand the Supreme Lord. I mean, that's the only reason we want to have Vedic knowledge. And the only way we can enter the kingdom of Krishna, which is Golok Vrindavan, is through the process of devotional service. Those of you who have read Brahma Samhita, they know the structure of spiritual world. How in the 10 directions, there are 10 protectors of the directions who are carrying a trident, who stop anybody who's not qualified to enter the spiritual world right at the border with their tridents. No, you're not allowed. So all those qualifications or lack of qualifications are looked at before anybody is allowed to enter that kingdom. Now, what happens with the mental speculators is they are not into devotional service. They're just using their brains to analyze things and trying to come to their own conclusions. And typically, they spend more time in saying, that person is wrong, that person is wrong. Oh, no, my conclusion here was wrong. No, this is not the right conclusion. They keep going, neti, it's not it, it's not it, it's not it. And they waste the whole life or lifetimes just doing that. So therefore, they cannot develop that ecstasy that one gets from performing devotional service, which goes back to the point we were making in the previous paragraph, that their heart is hardened, becomes like steel or like stone. Therefore, there cannot be the ecstasy of devotion. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, let's go on to the next chapter, next paragraph, please, somebody.
I can read Prabhu.
Oh, please go ahead. Yes.
Okay. In the 11th
Now,
canto,
if you don't mind, turn the video on, because on the video, otherwise, it doesn't show. Thank you. Thank you
okay.
so much. Yes, great.
Canto 20th chapter, verse 31 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna says, My dear Uddhava, for persons who are seriously engaged in my service, the cultivation of philosophical speculations and artificial renunciations are not very favorable. When a person becomes my devotee, he automatically attains the fruits of the renunciation of material enjoyment, and he gets sufficient knowledge to understand the absolute truth. That is the test of advancement in devotional service. A devotee cannot be in darkness because the Lord shows him special favor and enlightens him from within.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm seeing a lot of verses that we have studied in the past. So for example, when Krishna is saying to Uddhava that for persons who are seriously engaged in my service, the cultivation of philosophical speculation and artificial renunciation are not very favorable. Does that remind you of any verse from Nectar of Devotion that we studied in the beginning? Anya abhilashta shunyam, gyan karmadi anavratam. Remember that one? Any other type of material desire is absent. And so is the tendency for any mental speculation. or performance of fruitive activity. That is pure devotional service. So this is what Krishna is saying, that when devotees are seriously engaged in my service, basically there's no room for mental speculation or artificial renunciation in that service. And then he goes on to say, when a person becomes my devotee, he automatically attains the fruits of renunciation of material enjoyment and gets sufficient knowledge to understand the absolute truth. This is the point that Radha Vinod Prabhu was making before by quoting that verse 127, which is Vasudeva Bhagavate, sorry, just one again.
Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita.
Thank you, Prabhu. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam. When we perform pure devotional service, automatically it gives us the knowledge that we need to understand the Lord, and it gives the renunciation or detachment from material things, so they stop becoming the distraction from our devotional service. And then it says a devotee cannot be in darkness. So anybody remembers, because the Lord shows him a special favor and enlightens him from within. Anybody recalls a verse from Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is saying this?
Ishama evanu kampartham.
Very good, very good. Yes, go ahead.
Ishama evanu kampartham. Aham ajnana jamtama. Nasyami atma bhavastu. Jnana deepena baswata.
Very nice. Thank you, Mother. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's exactly the verse. Krishna is saying that I remove the darkness from their heart by giving them or showing them the lamp of knowledge. And there's a very similar verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna Suryasam Maya Andhikar, Jaha Krishna Taha Nahi Maya Adhikar. So Krishna is like the sun. It removes the darkness of Maya from the heart of a devotee. Wherever there is sun, there cannot be darkness. So where there is Krishna, there cannot be ignorance or avidya. Okay, now I'm going to talk about two words that I want to make sure everybody understands. The two words are process and the qualities. So the process basically means steps involved in whatever you're doing. So I can say, although the processes of jnana and vairagya, which is knowledge and detachment, are not favorable to devotional service, as we just discussed. But the qualities of knowledge and detachment are necessary for devotional advancement. So let me repeat that. The process of jnana and vairagya, which are before you become devotee, are not useful. But the quality of knowledge, which is the knowledge of the Lord, of yourself, and the quality of detachment, which means detachment from material things, that is necessary for making progress for devotional advancement. Which I think is the point Khatwanga Prabhu was making much earlier in this class today, that we need that. Okay, so the reason I mentioned that is that we don't have that knowledge about self, about the relationship with the Lord, or detachment from material things. We will continue to be attached to the material body. We tend to act for the body and will not tend to act for Krishna's pleasure, and therefore will not be successful in the performance of devotional service. Is that clear, or is it too heavy?
Okay, Bro, just wanted to thank you. Those two sentences have cleared a lot of questions which I had.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Anybody else?
So,
Okay.
Prabhuji, yeah, you are saying that knowledge required for a Krishna, no Krishna, that is required, and the detachment, whatever is not for a Krishna, that detachment we need to have.
Correct.
Right? That's what we are talking about.
Yeah, basically, yes. And I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit later on.
That's why it is the focus, yes.
Yes, exactly. Okay, I think we're going to get late today. Now, let's see. Another point I wanted to make was that Krishna doesn't care for your knowledge of the kind that says, I know 700 verses of Gita, I know most of the verses from Bhagavatam, I've read this Purana and that Veda and this and that, and I can give great classes and people are impressed by my knowledge. Krishna says, maybe everybody else is impressed, but I don't care for your knowledge. What does Krishna care for?
Innocence.
Innocence, okay, yeah, sure. But I'm looking for a specific word.
Yeah, what is
Bhav.
there for him?
Bhav. Who said bhav?
Wow.
Shabash. 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 Yes, his bhav grahi. He appreciates the feeling of love. He appreciates the feeling of love. It doesn't matter whether it's something very small or very big. What he's looking for is the amount of love associated with that thing. Big thing without love, meaningless. Very small thing with love, very meaningful. Duryodhan ka bhog na khayo, mukha saag vidur ghar khayo. That's what it means. He's looking for the bhav. He's looking for the feeling. He cares for the feeling, nothing else. Another point I want to make is that our problem is not so much that we are attached to Maya. I mean, it's a problem, but it's not the biggest problem. Our biggest problem is that we detach from Krishna. So detachment from Krishna is a bigger problem than attachment to Maya, because if we become attached to Krishna, we'll automatically be detached from Maya. Okay, this is why non-devotees are attached to matter or material things, and devotees are attached to Krishna. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, now there's two types of gyan, knowledge. One is what you call bhakti anukul, and it's called bhakti pratikul. I'm sure most of you know the meaning of the word anukul means favorable, and pratikul means not favorable. So the three things that we want to talk about as the components of the gyan. One is intention, second is constitution, and third is destination. And I'm going to explain that. So it's not favorable gyan, which is pratikul gyan. The intention is to become one with Krishna, like merge in the body of Krishna. And it's impersonal. There's no personal relationship. That's the intention. Constitution is drying of the heart, becoming stone and lack of any emotions. And of course, destination then is Brahmani Faljas, which takes you away from Krishna, merges you in the Faljas. That's Bhakti Pratikul Gyan. Bhakti Anukul Gyan, the intention is we want to focus on Krishna. We want to focus on a relationship with Krishna. That we are the servant, he's the master. We want to focus on the constitution is that we want to always glorify Krishna. We always want to talk about the pastimes of Krishna. We want to talk about the form, the quality of Krishna. That's what gives us satisfaction. That's what gives us pleasure. And the destination then, of course, is Golok Vrindavan. So, Pratikul Gyan and Anukul Gyan. So this Gyan itself is not good enough. And that's why we talked about, when this starts in the beginning, when Gyan is the beginning, typically it's a Pratikul Gyan. Mental speculation, wanting to run into, rather merge into Brahmani Faljas, don't really know who Krishna is, we're trying to figure it out, and we don't really want to have a relationship with him, we just want to seize our material existence. And go merge into Brahmani Faljas, will be always happy. Okay? Whereas Anukul Gyan that we were talking about is who's Krishna, who are we, what's our relationship, enjoying or reading about, hearing about the glories of Krishna, his pastimes, his forms, qualities, and knowing that we want to end up in Golok Vrindavan because we want to eternally serve Krishna. Okay? So that's again a very important point, because often we're confused with Gyan and Vairag, what's the difference? One seems to be good, one seems to be bad, and here's probably, hopefully, the answer that you were looking for. If not, tell me, Rupa Nuga, you're full of it. I didn't understand anything.
Prabhuji, on that Anukul constitution, how you understand that? I lost it there.
No problem. So basically, constitution basically means what is your state at that time? What is your state? So if it's Pratikul, your heart is hard.
Yeah.
You lack any emotions. You know, there's no feelings, there's no personalism. That's your constitution.
Okay.
Okay. On the opposite side, when you are in Anukul Gyan, your constitution is you want to hear the glories of Krishna, you want to talk about the glories of Krishna, you want to see the form of Krishna, you want to hear about the form of Krishna, you want to hear about the pastimes, you know, you enjoy Tushyanti Charamanticha. Right? That's your constitution.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
You want to serve him all the time. That's your constitution. Okay?
Prabhuji, how intention and constitution? Can you again?
I'm sorry?
You said intention
Huh.
and constitution.
So
They
three,
sound
three:
very
intention, constitution, and destination.
destination. Okay, Prabhu.
So was that your question?
No, that was my question, but my question also is how they are different. I couldn't.
Sorry, so like what's the difference in intention and constitution? Is that
Yeah,
what you mean?
yeah. If you can give me example.
Yeah. So intention is what is it that you intend to do? So in the case of Pratikul, we said you intend to merge in Krishna's body. That's your intention. Whereas in the Anukul side, intention is simply focus on Krishna, focus on who we are, focus on the relationship, and that's the intention is to improve the relationship. Intention to serve Krishna, to please Krishna. Everything is Krishna-centric. That's the intention. Does that make it any clearer?
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhuji, can I ask a question? Sorry,
Yeah,
it's
please
a
do.
silly one.
Sure.
Prabhu, when your destination you understand, your intention and your constitution you understand, but जो लोग आपके around हैं, and they are not fixed in knowledge, they are not fixed in renunciation, they're still doing maybe say Brahman effulgence, they're still on that path. How do you see as a devotee, how do you see them, and like, because automatically it comes, you know, you have a better knowledge, you know, you know it better, they don't know, what they're doing is less important, what we do is more important. So how to be humble in that scenario, Prabhuji?
Yes, very good question, actually, very practical question. So humility can come only to those people who understand that whatever skills, whatever talents, whatever knowledge they have is been given to them by the grace of Krishna. It's not from their own. So when you understand it's come from somebody else, from somebody else's mercy upon us, it's very hard to become puffed up. Because you didn't earn it. It was given to you by the mercy of somebody. Mercy by definition means you didn't deserve it, but you got it. It's like, for example, two people with PhD. One says, I worked very hard, I studied hard, I'm very smart, I earned my degree. That person can become puffed up. The other person says, my God, what do I know? I'm just a dummy, but by Krishna's grace, somehow he made arrangements that I got my degree. He'll never be puffed up. As long as he continues to believe that, he'll never be puffed up. Because whatever he has been given to him as a mercy or grace of somebody else. So we should always remember that whatever we know is by the grace of a guru or the Lord. You know, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.8, he says, Paurusham Nrasham, I am the ability in man. In 7.11, he says, Balam Balvatam Chaham, I am the strength of the strong. So he's saying very clearly, whatever you have, it's me. He talks about the women. He says, Spriti Meda Datim Dakshu. He says, whatever beauty, whatever opulence, whatever good memory women have, that's all me. So next time before you look at the mirror and say, I'm so the most beautiful woman on the earth, fine, but that's the grace of Krishna. If you think it's grace of Krishna, you'll never be puffed up. As soon as you think I deserved it, we become puffed up.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Anybody else?
Basically, nothing exists without Krishna.
Nothing is without Krishna, and whatever you have has been given to you by the grace of Krishna. That's the most important point. Never think you deserved it. Okay. Should we move on?
Prabhu, just want to add one point, and also,
Ah.
when we feel other person should also learn the things that I have learned, we can only pray for them. That's it.
So actually, you are raising another very good point. One of the qualities of a devotee is compassion. When we see somebody junior to us in whatever way, we feel compassion and we want to help them, whether it's through prayers or through some kind of a knowledge transfer or whatever. But we feel that compassion that they should also get it. Not to prove to them that I'm superior to them, but because I just feel compassion. It's a very important quality of a devotee. Okay, does that make sense? And does that answer your question, by the way?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. So we talked about how detachment can harden the heart, which makes it useless for devotional service. But we should also understand, just along the lines of Pratikulan and Anukul Gyan we were talking about, detachment is also necessary for progressing on the path of devotional service, because we cannot be pure devotees unless we are desireless. Okay, so as long as we desire material desires, we cannot become pure devotees. Only when our desires are purified enough to have desires only to satisfy Krishna, only to please Krishna, then we call desireless. And that is essential for getting to the pure devotional service platform. Okay, is that clear? But again, it's the same idea. What is breaking the detachment? Is it you starting from the point of view of becoming detached without any consideration for Krishna or devotional service? It's just on your own, you want to be detached because you don't like the material things. That's one thing. Or is the detachment coming from the performance of devotional service or attachment to Krishna? Same thing with Gyan we're talking about, same thing with detachment. It is necessary to progress, but depends upon where we're starting and what's causing that detachment. Okay, so another thing is that the second kind of detachment will not harden the heart, because the first kind of detachment hardens the heart. So sounds like very confusing and hard to really distinguish. So in the next paragraph, Rupa Goswami will talk about Yukta Vairagya, the concept of Yukta Vairagya, the engaged renunciation. Okay, and he'll show that detachment and knowledge automatically come from bhakti, and that's the kind of detachment knowledge we want. So somebody please read the next paragraph.
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, please.
In the 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 32 and 33 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord further instructs Uddhava, my dear friend.
That's okay, don't worry, keep going.
My dear, somebody else.
I will do it. I will do, mother. Take care
Okay.
of her. In the 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 32 and 33 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord further instructs Uddhava, my dear friend, the profits derived from fruitive activities, austerities, the culture of philosophical knowledge, renunciation, the practice of mystic yoga, charity, and all similar auspicious activities are automatically achieved by my devotees, those who are simply attached to me by loving service. These devotees have everything at their disposal, but they desire nothing outside of my devotional service. If ever a devotee should desire some material profit, like a promotion to the heavenly planets, or some spiritual profits, go to the Vaikuntha. By my causeless mercy, his desires are very easily fulfilled.
What a beautiful point. Like people like me, who are neophyte, have so many material desires, trying to perform devotional service, saying, okay, is the right thing to do? What about my this desire or that desire? Krishna is saying, if you're serving me and you have those desires, I will fulfill them. I'll fulfill them very easily. So don't worry about it. You just continue to do your devotional service. And there's a very wonderful verse in Bhagavatam, akamaha sarva kamo va moksha kamo udardhi. Tivrena bhakti yogena, something param brajit.
Bhakti Yoga Prayojita.
Bhakti yoga, no. Tivrena bhakti yogena, something param brajit. Anyway, basically saying that whether you have material desires or you have no material desires, whether you desire liberation of the Sayuja kind, which is the merging in the manifolds, it doesn't matter. You just perform devotional service to the Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna will take care of whatever your desires are. Yeah, Purusha. Tivran Bhakti Yoga, Purusha Paramam Bhajet. So the Purusha, Param Purusha is Lord Krishna. He'll take care of it. Okay, then I just read the next paragraph, 3 lines. There's actually a person who's developing Krishna consciousness and still has some attachment to material enjoyment will soon be freed from such a tendency by regularly discharging devotional service under the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master. So basically, the reason I want to just read it together, the 2 paragraphs, because going back to the verse I just quoted, Krishna is saying, I satisfy them, but at the same time, I will also take away desire for material enjoyment. It's exactly what happened to Dhruva. What happened to Dhruva? He wanted a kingdom just better and more opulent than the kingdom of his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. But once he met Lord Vishnu offered that kingdom, and he said, no. I've seen you now, my Lord. All my desires are fulfilled. I don't want anything anymore. I don't want any benediction. I had left home looking for broken pieces of glass, but now found a touchstone. Why do I need anything else? That's what Krishna does. He says, I will give you the nectar of my lotus feet, by which you'll forget anything that is to do with material things. Okay.
Yeah, but Prabhuji, I was about to ask that question. So, like a promotion to the heavenly planets, right?
I'm sorry.
You know, the previously the profit like promotion to the heavenly planet is a little heavy. You know, thinking of going to Golakunda, Vaikuntha, you know, one can have desire. It's again spiritual, and he can give a shelter there. But it's a mention also, right? Like promotion to the heavenly planets, I fulfill.
Yeah. What's the issue?
So he doesn't fulfill that promise. Basically, he takes out the desire. That's what you are.
No. So what I'm saying is he may. So for example, if you remember chapter 6, text 41, it says, Prapta Puda Kratam Lokan Ushitva Shasti Sama. Shuchi Nam Srimatam Ge Yog Bhrishto Abhijayate. Remember that verse? It's saying that if you leave your body before you achieve perfection in devotional service, then I will send you to the upper planets.
Yeah,
you
got
enjoy
it.
for a long time. And you come back in the family of a aristocrat or a sophisticated family.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank
Right?
you.
So yeah, he will. If that's what you want. But if you get your senses back in time, you say, no, my Lord, I made a mistake. I don't want to go there. Please keep me in the shelter of your lotus feet. Okay?
प्रभु जी ये पक्का वाला इंश्योरेंस हो रहा है जिंदगी के साथ भी जिंदगी के
हाँ,
बाद
बिल्कुल पक्का इंश्योरेंस गारंटी है तरफ से. Okay? All right, next paragraph, somebody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Prabhu. Nagesh Prabhu.
Srila Rupa Goswami then recommends that one should not be attached to material sense enjoyment, but should accept everything enjoyable that is in relationship to Krishna. For example, eating is necessary and one wants some palatable dishes to satisfy
No,
his.
Prabhuji, not that one para.
ठीक तो है.
Left paragraph.
वो
No.
माताजी वो प्रभु जी ने he
I read that already.
Huh?
I read that already.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So for example, eating is necessary and one wants some palatable dishes to satisfy his sense of taste. So in that case, for the satisfaction of Krishna, rather than for the satisfaction of the tongue, some palatable dishes may be prepared and offered to Krishna. Then it is renunciation. Let the palatable dishes be prepared, but unless they are offered to Krishna, one should not accept them for eating. This vow of rejecting anything that is not offered to Krishna is actually renunciation. And by such renunciation, one is able to satisfy the demands of the senses.
Right. So this is talking about the real renunciation. Does this paragraph remind anybody of another very famous verse from Nectar of Devotion? Anasaktasya vishayan yatharaham upiyunjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagya muchate. The whole concept of yukta vairagya, which basically says here, when one is not attached to anything material, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, like in other words, in the service of Krishna, then one is rightly situated in Yukti Vairagya, which is something above possessiveness. So you have it, but you don't feel possessive about it because you use it only in the service of Krishna. And there are examples coming up later on in the chapter that we'll discuss. So basically what Yukti Vairagya means is that we accept only those things that can be used in Krishna's service and reject everything else. So you can think of this as a balanced process of detachment by which a devotee acquires the qualities of knowledge and detachment without undergoing the heart hardening process of jnana and vairagya. So remember we were talking about earlier, process and the qualities, that's why I'll come back to that. The qualities of knowledge and detachment will not harden your heart and will help you becoming better devotee. Okay, so Yukta Vairagya allows you to do that. Because you still have, you're kind of detached, but you still have the emotions. You're still engaged in the service. The emotions don't wither away. And the reason they don't do that is that emotions and activities in Yukta Vairagya, they exclusively center on Krishna. And therefore, they effectively extricate somebody, one, from mundane sphere and attach them to the Lord. Did that make sense? Yukta Vairagya is letting you keep your emotions, letting you keep on the service, letting you keep that relationship, letting you keep those feelings. They don't go away. And they don't go away because they exclusively focus on Krishna and take you away from anything material, even though the thing itself is material. And again, we see many examples later on in this chapter. But it's that point there that I want to make the point. Yukta Vairagya is good for us because let's keep the feelings for Krishna and for devotional service without hardening our heart. And it's totally focused on using anything and everything in the service of Krishna. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So actually it reminded me of an incident mentioned in Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Chaitanya is instructing Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami, as you know, used to run away from home at a very young age. He just wanted to be Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Chaitanya told him, no, it's not the time. And he told him something that is written in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is Markat vairagya na kara loka dikhaiya yatha yogya vishay bhunja anasakta hoya, which means basically you should not make yourself a Prabhupada uses the term show bottle. So don't make yourself a show bottle devotee. Don't become a false renunciant. For the time being now, just enjoy the material world without becoming attached to it. Anasakta hoya. So don't get attached to it, but enjoy it. Enjoy it by using it in the service of Krishna. Don't become a show bottle devotee. Look at me. My tilak is perfect. My dress is perfect. My chanting is perfect. My bead bag is so beautiful. The dress doesn't mean anything. That's a show bottle devotee. Become a devotee. Become Yukta Vairagya. Use things in the service of Krishna, but don't reject them. So don't run away. Stay home for a while. Now, another point is that no one can really become renounced until one actually becomes disgusted with all these material activities, material things. Until we start to see material attachment, material activities, material things as a stumbling block in our spiritual advancement. Until that happens, we cannot really be renounced. But it should not be false renunciation. It should not be temporary renunciation. That's called Phalgu. The word in Bengali, Phalgu means temporary. So Phalgu Vairag means temporary Vairag. It should be true for throughout your life. It should be there, permanent in that sense. The temporary renunciation is called Markat Vairag, which is the monkey renunciation. Monkeys walk around naked in the forest, appearing to be totally renounced, but there's so much sense gratification, it's not even funny. So that's called Markat Vairag. Another term used is Shamshan Vairag. Shamshan means crematorium. So you may have experienced that. I've experienced it more than once, that when you go to the crematorium, everybody's, in a somber mood, and sometimes discussions start happening on, we all going to die one day. Why are we working so hard day and night? And everybody says, yeah, and what's it, the sentiments of that kind, they kind of naturally arise in the mind of people, and but as soon as they get out of the crematorium, they're back to doing whatever material activities they were doing before, whatever sense enjoyment they were doing before, they forget about it. So that is called Shamshan Vairagya or Markat Vairagya, temporary Vairagya. So we don't want that. We want renunciation that's permanent, at least for this lifetime. That'll come only when we become disgusted with material things, only when we become attached to Krishna. Okay? All right. So let's move to the next paragraph. I need a volunteer.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Okay, Nana, go ahead.
The impersonalists who try to avoid everything material may undergo severe austerities but they miss the opportunity of being engaged in the service of the Lord. Thus, their renunciation is not sufficient for perfection. There are many instances where, following such artificial renunciation without any contact with devotional service, the impersonalist again fell down and become attracted to material contamination. There are many supposed renouncers, even at the present moment, who officially become sannyasis or renouncers and outwardly claim that spiritual existence is truth and material existence untruth. In this way, artificially, they make a show of renunciation to the material world. However, because they cannot reach the point of devotional service, they fail to achieve the goal. And they again come back to material activities such as philanthropic work or political agitations. There are many examples of so-called sannyasis who gave up the world as untruth, but again come back to material world because they are not seeking their real purpose at the lotus feet of the Lord.
Right.
Oh my God, I was reading this, Prabhu, and there's so many faces running in my head.
So many what?
So many, faces
Oh,
were
I see.
running in my head.
People, yeah, I see, yeah. So actually, can anybody give an example of a person who performed serious austerities, but because they were impersonalists, not devotees of the Lord, they became attracted to material.
Vishwamitra Prabhuji.
Very good, yes. Fell for Menaka. After 50,000 years of austerity, fell for Menaka and lost all the benefits of 50,000 years of austerity. And then it talks about so many sannyasis, they make the show of renunciation of the material world, then they do all sorts of nonsense in the present day context. Any examples come to mind?
We don't want to mention their name, Prabhuji.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so then I guess everybody knows who they are. And
So they might become future Vaishnavas. So let's not do that.
they might what?
I said they might become future Vaishnav. Who knows?
Yeah,
They
who
have
knows? Yeah,
tasted
okay.
something little.
Fair
Maybe
enough.
not in this life, next life
Yes,
they become
yes,
Vaishnav. So
yes.
let's not go there.
Okay. So basically the point is because they are not seeking the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, they start doing these kind of things. Okay. Next paragraph. Who would like to read that?
I can read, Prabhu.
Please do.
One should not give up anything that can be utilized in the service of the Lord. That is the secret of devotional service. Anything can be utilized in advancing Krishna consciousness, and devotional service should be accepted. For instance, we are using many machines for the advancement of our present Krishna consciousness movement. Machines like typewriters, dictating machines, tape recorders, microphones, and airplanes. Sometimes people ask us, why are you utilizing material products if you condemn the advancement of material civilization? But actually, we do not condemn. We simply ask people to do whatever they are doing in Krishna consciousness. This is the same principle on which in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advised Arjuna to utilize his fighting abilities in devotional service. Similarly, we are utilizing these machines for Krishna's service. With such sentiment for Krishna or Krishna consciousness, we can accept everything. If the typewriter can be utilized for advancing our Krishna consciousness movement, we must accept it. Similarly, the dictating machine or any other machine must be used. Our reason is that Krishna is everything. Krishna is the cause and effect, and nothing belongs to us. Krishna's things must be used in the service of Krishna. That is our vision.
Right. So again, we've been discussing this point for last an hour or so, and Prabhupada is giving some practical examples of what he was doing. And somebody said to him that you condemn the material things and you're still using them. And he said, no, I don't condemn, and I'm using them in the service of Krishna, which is perfectly okay. Because the opposite would be false renunciation or temporary renunciation that we just mentioned. Prabhupada explains that rejecting something that could be used in the service of Krishna is false renunciation or phalgu vairagya, or temporary renunciation. That type of renunciation will actually hinder the development of bhakti. Now, I just want to make the point that there's a difference between markat vairagya and phalgu vairagya. Markat vairagya basically show of renunciation. Like, for example, Naga Babas, they go around naked, or the monkeys we take the example of. So there is showing off your renunciation. In the heart, you may or may not be. But phalgu is the rejection of things that can be used for Krishna. There's a story of Srila Prabhupada receiving a suitcase full of money. And when he saw that, his face lit up. And some people said, wait a minute, this is hypocrisy. Prabhupada is always talking about being attached to things like money, material things. And there he is, his face shows that he's really enjoying this. And they said, we don't understand. They're just thinking in their mind. But before they could say or do anything, Srila Prabhupada called all the disciples and distributed all the money in the suitcase for different projects, like book printing, temple construction, or whatever the need was. And within minutes, all the money was gone, not a penny for him. Similarly, it is said that Prabhupada actually amassed a fortune of millions of dollars, but not a penny for himself. It's all used in the service of Krishna, temples, printing press, and all those kind of things. So as long as we're using whatever material thing is in the service of Krishna, it's okay. Right? Even, like, for example, let's talk about internet. Internet we can use to, we're using right now a Zoom calls to discuss Nectar of Devotion. We can use it to hear classes of various senior devotees. We can use it for kirtans, for japa, etc., etc. That's proper use of internet. Or we can use it to watch pornography. It's improper use of internet. So same thing, but depending upon how you use it, is appropriate or not appropriate, helpful in devotion service or not helpful in devotion service. Okay. So let's read the next paragraph to support the point I just made.
Prabhuji, can you give an example of phalgu vairagya?
Phalgu vairagya basically means rejecting things that could be used for the service of Krishna. So let me give a very practical example. Happened many years ago, maybe 20 years ago. In the temple, we offer flowers. And then somebody takes one flower, offers it to Srila Prabhupada, and it goes out to everybody to smell. That's the mercy of the Lord. So I was doing that one day in the temple, and I went to this girl, maybe 20-year-old girl, and she refused. So I was shocked. I said, so why do you refuse? She said, oh, this is self gratification, and she will not smell it. That is phalgu vairagya, because smelling of the flower, when it's been offered to the Lord, is receiving the mercy of the Lord. Not smelling it is rejecting the mercy of the Lord. So that's phalgu vairagya. Similarly saying, no, the dictaphone, the airplane, the cars, they are all material things, I'm not going to use them. That's phalgu vairagya, because you can use them in the service of Krishna. Okay?
Makes sense, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, next paragraph, please, somebody.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
One should not give up anything which can be utilized in service of the Lord. That is a secret of devotional service. Anything that can be utilized in advancing Krishna consciousness and devotional service should be accepted. For instance, we are using. Did anyone read this, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I
Prabhuji,
think
we
so. We read that.
just read this.
Go to the next
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
Next one.
Okay, so this does not mean, however, that we should give up the principles of discharging devotional service or neglect abiding by the rules and regulations prescribed therein. In the neophyte stage of devotion, one must follow all the principles regulated by the authority of the spiritual master. The acceptance and rejection of things should always be in pursuance of devotional principles, not that one can independently manufacture some idea of what should be accepted or rejected. The spiritual master, as the visible manifestation of Krishna, is necessary, therefore, to direct the devotee on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right. So what the major point here is, don't do it on a whim. Go by what the Shastras say. If not clear, ask your spiritual master. Let him guide you. That's basically the point that's being made here. Okay. Next paragraph.
I can read, Prabhu.
Go ahead.
The spiritual master must never be carried away by an accumulation of wealth or a large number of followers. A bona fide spiritual master will never become like that. But sometimes, if a spiritual master is not properly authorized and only on his own initiative becomes a spiritual master, he may be carried away by an accumulation of wealth and large number of disciples. His is not a very high grade of devotional service. If a person is carried away by such achievements, then his devotional service becomes slackened. One should therefore strictly adhere to the principles of disciplic succession.
Right. So, not so much in ISKCON, but outside of ISKCON, we see a lot of examples of people wanting to have wealthy disciples, because they're not interested in the disciple, they're interested in the wealth of the disciple. And a bona fide spiritual master will never do that. The bona fide spiritual master is one who's in the disciplic succession. So anybody who's outside of the disciplic succession is not a bona fide spiritual master, and that's the risk of getting into something like this. It says here, his is not a very high grade of devotional service. Okay, and then if anybody who gets carried away with having wealthy, famous disciples, then his own devotional service will become slackened. This point I want to make, and I think it's emphasized in the next paragraph also. It says, performing devotional service through one's wealth or followers is not an item of sadhana bhakti. So let me explain that further. A wealthy person may give a large donation to build a huge temple. That is devotional service, no question about that. However, if that person thinks that any subsequent activities performed within the temple, like deity worship, like cooking and offering prasadam, etc., are his credit, that's wrong. That's not his devotional service. And if he gets carried away by this misconception, there will be no impetus for him to perform devotional service, and therefore he'll become very slack. Similarly, if a spiritual master trains his disciples to do deity worship, it does not mean that any subsequent deity worship the disciples do goes to the credit of the spiritual master. If anybody thinks like that, that's also not right. Okay, and clearly somebody who's thinking that, oh, my disciples are doing it, the credit is going to me, then his own devotional service will be slackened. And that's not good for him. So very important to remember, devotional service is a very personal thing. For example, sometimes people say, oh, you're going to Vrindavan, offer obeisances for me. Fine. But that is not the same thing as you offering obeisances. I have some relatives, very rich relatives, that built a big temple in their own house, really big temple in their own house, but they've hired a pujari to do deity worship. That is not devotional service. Whatever that pujari is doing, none of that credit is going to the owners of the house or those people who are paying the salary of the pujari. That is not devotional service. Okay, so we have to remember that. Okay, any questions?
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Mhm.
I understood the point that you've made, but I want to reconfirm that I understood it correctly. So when we offer anything or we do any offering, say bhoga or aarti or something, we do it through the spiritual master.
Correct.
But that personally is not the spiritual master's devotional service, you're saying?
Correct. That is not
Okay.
spiritual master devotional service. That is his mercy upon us that we are able to do that. This mercy upon us that he's accepting it to pass it to his spiritual master, this instruction, all the way to Krishna. But his
Okay.
spiritual master doesn't say, Krishna, remember that was my service, so put a tick mark under my name. No, it doesn't work that way.
So is it Prabhuji, is it that so the same point where Prabhupada says that a spiritual master should be revered as God, but a spiritual master who thinks himself to be the God is bogus,
Problem.
right? Is it the same thing that we do it through the spiritual master, but if spiritual master thinks that what the disciple is doing is their devotional service, that is wrong, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Is that clear to everyone? That's a good question. Okay, all right. Let's read the next paragraph. I'm sorry, we're going to
I'll
be
read it, Prabhuji.
Okay, we're going to be a little bit late today. Unless you want me to stop now, we can continue next week. It's 9:31, so I have to ask that question.
Prabhuji, we
Yes,
have done
Prabhuji.
half of that. I think a lot more remaining. Almost more than 2 pages are there.
Yeah, there's more than 2 pages. That's why I'm asking.
I think, Prabhuji, we should stop here, you know.
Okay, that's fine. So we're going to
It's
start.
very
here.
relevant, Prabhuji. It's very relevant and important also.
Yeah, so I'm just going to make a note. I stopped here. Okay, so we're not going to read anymore, but I'm still willing to answer any questions or clarifications you have.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a question.
Mhm.
Like, it's sometimes we say that if somebody is going to Vrindavan, you gave the example, pay obeisance. So it is not the same. Personally, you are paying. So how we see that? Should we do or should not do at all?
No, so basically, if somebody asks you to do that, your role is to basically offer the obeisance, pray for him.
Okay.
Not say I'm doing it on his behalf. That doesn't work.
Right. To pray for him, yes.
But I'm praying for this person, which is fine. You can pray for anybody.
Prabhuji, because you were making the point of him being bhavagrahi, I think the moment someone said that pay obeisances on my behalf, the obeisances were accepted if the intention is pure,
Well,
right?
yeah, see, that's the whole thing. Intention. What is the intention? Is it like, yeah, you're going, so you do it, I'm not going to go there. So you
Just like that.
yeah, then it's meaningless.
Then it's, yeah.
It's meaningless.
Even if the person who's paying on their behalf, even then it's not accepted if the intention or bhav is not
Correct. Exactly right.
pure.
Yeah. And that's something, excuse me, we should always remember that. So it's not our actions, it's not our gestures, it's not our anything, except what is in our heart. That's all Krishna is looking at. That's all Krishna is appreciating. There's nothing in the heart. You're basically firing blanks. And then we wonder why we've been chanting for so many years. There's no improvement because you're firing blanks. When you're firing blanks, Krishna is not sitting with you. The only thing that's happening is that you're going through a purification process. And it is possible that your material desires will be satisfied. Even though you're chanting with offenses, your material desires may be satisfied. That's possible. But in terms of progress towards attaining the love of Krishna, there's no progress, zero. So chanting is never useless. I don't want anybody to think offensive chanting is useless. Never useless, cannot be useless. Chanting bad rounds is better than not chanting any rounds. Even total absent-mindedness, chanting is better than not chanting. So don't ever think that, okay, my rounds are bad, therefore I'll stop chanting. No, no. Chanting very, very bad rounds is better than no chanting, because the purification process is happening. And frankly, we are not pure yet, so we have material desires. Your material desires may be satisfied simply from bad chanting. So it's never useless. It's never wasted. It just doesn't give the right result. Anybody else?
Prabhuji, can I ask a question based on the previous paragraph we read? I was actually looking something because I read few days ago, I was reading an article written by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he said that he severely criticized his fat disciples. Like he said that those who are eating too much are basically not advancing in Krishna consciousness. And this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28, verse 35 and 36. But we were just recently reading on page 114 that, eating is necessary and one want to, kya tha? Sorry. When one wants some palatable dishes to satisfy his own sense of taste, in that case for the satisfaction of Krishna rather than for the satisfaction of God. Like that is totally understandable कि आप उसको as a bhoga ग्रहण कीजिए. Don't eat it just because you want to.
आप ग्रहण कीजिए ऐसे प्रसाद.
Yes, तो प्रभु वो दोनों चीजें कॉन्ट्रेडिक्ट नहीं हो रही कि हमारे गुरु परंपरा में वो बोल रहे हैं कि आप जब फूड एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हो तो जस्ट ईट एज मच एज नीडेड. लाइक क्या ऐसे बोले योर कोटा. But we have seen definitely there are so many gurus and disciples who are proportionally big. How do we, justify this?
Yes, good point. So essentially, I mean, first point is, I think we all agreeing that eating food that has not been offered only results in sinful reactions. So we reject that. There's no argument on that point, right? The question you're asking is the amount that some of us eat, right? And therefore, some become big, some become not so big, right? So the question really is it correct to consume a lot of prasadam? Right? Am I hearing your question correctly?
Yes, Prabhu, because we were talking about Vairagya, and this is one kind of, detachment from, हम ऐसे बोल के कि हम प्रसाद खा रहे हैं, and then we eat like huge.
Right, right. So there's a principle involved here. The principle involved here is that when we are eating prasadam, we are not eating prasadam. We are honoring prasadam. We are honoring prasadam means we are treating it at the same level as Krishna, not different from Krishna. So we are honoring prasadam as if we are honoring Krishna. And so essentially by consuming it, we are honoring the prasadam, we are serving the prasadam. We are serving the prasadam, believe it or not. Serving means serving the prasadam as opposed to serving somebody else. When we are consuming it ourselves, we are serving the prasadam that we are consuming. So therefore, we honor it as Krishna's mercy, not something that we achieve sense gratification from. So therefore, for somebody to say, oh, rasmalai, oh, so good. Oh, that sabji, so good. Roti, so good. And I'm enjoying this, my sense gratification. That is not honoring prasadam. As a matter of fact, there's a story about the time when the battle of Mahabharata had just finished, and Maharaj Yudhishthira was feeling very guilty that he was the cause of so many deaths, and therefore he had accumulated so many sinful reactions. And Krishna kept telling him, no, don't think like that, that's not the right thinking, but he wouldn't let go. So Krishna said, okay, fine. Assuming you are right, the best way to get rid of those sinful reactions is that you invite all the Vaishnavas and you serve them prasadam. So He said, fine, but then how would I know that that worked? And Krishna said, we'll make a tent where everybody will sit and honor prasadam. On top of the tent will be a big bell. If the bell starts ringing automatically, then you know your sinful reactions are gone. If it doesn't ring, then it has not gone. She said, okay. Everybody in the world they can think of, they were invited. They came. Krishna took personal responsibility for washing the lotus feet of everybody who came. Bhim became in charge of serving prasadam. Draupadi was the head cook. And they invited everybody. Everybody was fed prasadam, given proper gifts, and goodbye. Everybody left, but the bell did not ring. Yudhishthira was heartbroken. He went to Krishna and said, now what? What happened? And Yudhishthira said, well, what you said cannot be wrong. So what happened? So Krishna said, you must have missed some devotee. Some pure devotee you must have missed. So they went through their list again and couldn't think of anybody. So Krishna said, I'll help you. There's a devotee who's in charge of a crematorium not too far from here. You send Sahadev, the youngest brother, to go fetch him in the chariot and tell him that Maharaj Yudhishthira has invited him for prasadam. So Sahadev went in his chariot, saw this man, came off his chariot, offered his obeisances. This man, dirty, with all the ashes on his body and matted hair and all those kind of things, and this man is shocked. He says, I know who you are. You're the prince. Why are you doing this? So Sahadev stated the purpose of his visit, extended the invitation for Maharaj Yudhishthira, please come. And he said, no, I don't deserve it. There must be a mistake, some mistaken identity here. It cannot be me. Look at what I do. And Sahadev said, no, Krishna has identified you. So please come. So this man said, okay, you go ahead, I'll follow you. Sahadev said, no, please sit on my chariot. I have to take you with me. So he finally agreed, took him there. Draupadi made special bhoga, which was offered, and then Maharaj Yudhishthira served her. There must have been 56 different varieties, all put separately on the plate. He offered his prayers to honor the prasadam, and then after his prayers were finished, the bell rang once and then stopped. Now Yudhishthira was very confused. He says, what does this mean? It rang once and then stopped. So kind of reactions gone and not gone. What's going on? Krishna said, call Draupadi. So they called Draupadi. And Krishna said, Draupadi, tell me exactly what you were thinking as this man was starting to honor his prasadam, and he honored his prasadam. She said, when I saw him offer wonderful prayers to honor the prasadam, I was saying, what a wonderful devotee. I felt really good. And so I thought that the bell rang once. But then he mixed everything up. Rasgulla and rasmalai and sabji and namkeen and snacks and puri, everything mixed together. He started eating them all together. And I was saying, what a fool. I've spent so much effort, so much trouble, so much work to make this delicious dishes, and he's not going to taste any of them. He's just mixing everything up. As soon as I thought that, the bell stopped. She said, Draupadi, you go apologize to this person. So she apologized to him, and he said, no problem. And they offered him gifts, washed his feet, took him back to the crematorium. As soon as that happened, the bell started ringing. So then Yudhishthira said, Krishna, I don't understand what happened here. And Krishna said, look, prasadam means the mercy of the Lord. Bhoga means to enjoy. So bhoga means you're offering this to me for me to enjoy. But when I've enjoyed this, now you're receiving this as my mercy. That's not for you to enjoy. That's for you to accept. But when you start to enjoy the taste of the prasadam, then you're turning mercy into self-gratification. You turn prasadam into bhoga for you. And that's no good. And therefore it became an offense, and the bell stopped. So here's the point of the story. When we honor prasadam, it's not for the taste of the individual items. Certainly when we cook bhoga, It's not for us to come upstairs and say, how was it? How was it? I expect praises and get upset when nobody praises you. So that's what it is. Do not turn prasadam into bhoga for yourself. Accept it as mercy of the Lord. So therefore, consume it, but as honoring Krishna. When you start eating a lot more than you should because you're enjoying the taste, that is not prasadam, and that's not good. So I cannot speak for every big person. I cannot say every big person is doing sense enjoyment. For those who are doing sense enjoyment are not honoring prasadam. And therefore, that's not good.
Prabhu, I know somebody that eats so many rasgullas. Like he can eat like 40 rasgullas, okay? So what does that say?
Well, I don't know what his mood is. If his mood is honoring, fine. But if he's doing it because he enjoys it, that's not fine. But I can't speak for anybody because I don't know what their mood is. So, I mean, this is why devotional service is tricky. It's not always straightforward. And that's why we have difficulty making progress. That's why after 40 years, we have not become pure devotees. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. Our mindset is very important. What are we thinking in our mind? What is our mood? What is our intention? That's what determines the results. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. No, I had few things in mind, like there could be a medical condition that, somebody is big. But yes, I have also seen people, saying, oh, hamare Gopal ji to bahut chature hain. And they make all the, they add everything to their food because they want to eat it, but they want to blame it on Krishna.
Yeah, exactly. I would say 99.9% of the people who cook, they ask their spouse, so kya khana hai? Once they know that, they cook for Krishna. And they say, this is for Krishna. Well, it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not that easy. It requires a lot more effort. It requires a lot more consciousness. Like our consciousness is not pure. And that's our problem. So we think very differently than we should. Our priorities are not right. Our consciousness is so bad, sometimes we don't even know that our priorities are not right.
So Prabhuji, so far we were saying, aapne khana khana hai, aap bhog chadao, accept it as prasad. Now this is not the concept anymore.
Why do you say that?
I said, abhi tak we were learning, agar aapne khana khana hai, you can turn it into prasad and like offer it to Krishna, bhog chadao, eat it as prasad, and that's good for you.
Still
Then
valid.
you're eating sinless food. But with this point, we are saying, agar even if we are offering to Krishna, but the intention is not right, then it is not prasad.
No, I didn't say that. I said the effect is not the same.
Oh, the effect is not the
The
same.
effect is
Okay.
not the same. You still have offered it. So the sin has been taken away. But remember, it's not all about just not eating sin.
Okay.
Not eating sin means it's not getting any worse. That's all it means. But what will make it better? What have you done to make it better? So you stay at the same level, the rest of your life, fine. But what have you done to make it better? So as we talk about progress,
Makes sense.
something positive has to happen for you to make progress. Otherwise, status quo. And that's what happens to most of us. Wherever we were 10 years ago, we're still there. There's no improvement in the quality of our chanting. There's no improvement in our heart. There's no more feeling, all those kind of things. Why are we still chanting offensively after 40 years of chanting? Prabhupada once said, it's the little things that keep us here. Our struggle is the little things. Big things we've taken care of. The 4 regulatory principles, big thing. That's easy to take care of. It's the little things that get us. So we have to start working on little things. It's like, if you talk to any world-class player, whether it's tennis or cricket or football, soccer, whatever, it doesn't matter. They'll all tell you it's the little things, the little adjustments they have to make to improve. There are, I would say, let's take tennis, one of my favorite games. There must be 10, 20 players in the world who can beat the other person any day. But they don't. It's the little things. Maybe the strength of the mind, maybe the emotional state, maybe just the way they stand, the way they receive, whatever. That's what makes the difference. With technical skills, they have the same level as anybody else. Right? So that's our struggle. That is our struggle. We've taken care of the big items, no problem. That was easy. Now it's the little things that are keeping us. How do we do that? A lot of times we don't even think of, oh, it's a problem. So that's the beginning. If we start thinking about where's the problem, what are the problems, and then only you can think of how we remove them. But it's all about consciousness. Sometimes we think, oh, I know I'm the soul, I know I'm eternal servant, I know Krishna representative got it. Done. What else do I need to know? No, that's just the beginning. That is just the beginning. And that's where we're stuck. So I hope I'm not using too many strong words, but that's what it is.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for clearing the concept. And I know it took a lot of time today.
No, that's perfectly all right. Okay, anybody else have anything before we wrap up? Okay, well, thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kapasindhibhyo evcha nam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna,
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
बंद करना